we're to talk about this afternoon is why not to follow the programme, and specifically what lawyers can teach us about artificial intelligence. Lawyers, those people who dress like it's the 18th century and think a tablet is something that's made out of stone. Yes, lawyers. Because the oldest existing written law is over 4,000 years old. That's at least how long lawyers have been programming mindless robots. And in case you doubt that, this programme is all the laws that have governed your behaviour since you woke up this morning. And the only assumption I have made is that you didn't come here by air. Your name, your identity, who you speak to, what you see, the clothes you're wearing, are all defined by legislation and by cases. The fact that you are here today is because of the law of contract. And so many, many aspects of your behaviour have been programmed without you even realising it. And therefore, lawyers know a lot about these programs that govern every aspect of your existence. But the idea that I have that's worth sharing is that the law realises that sometimes the programme is wrong. Sometimes it moves away from the programme. It says that these rules should not be followed. And I'm going to give you 3 examples of that in operation. The first of these is the case of Crown against Cronlid. The defendants in the case of Cronlid were accused of criminal damage, and they did not deny that they had committed acts of criminal damage. £1.5 million worth of criminal damage, to be specific. But the jury declined to find them guilty on the basis that genocide was a far worse crime, and therefore damaging aeroplanes that would be used for war was a justification for finding the defendants not guilty. The second example is the case of Crown and Joji. Now, the law as it was until last year provided that if you were involved in some sort of criminal activity, you took responsibility for all the consequences of that criminal activity. And therefore, if you went to a place to commit a criminal offence and one of the people you were with takes out a knife and stabs a victim and kills them, you are guilty of murder. That was a principle set out in a case of Crown and Chang Wing Soo. And this is precisely what happened to Joji. He was involved in an activity whereby he planned to intimidate the victim, and suddenly the co-defendant pulls out a knife, stabs the victim and kills him, and Joji is convicted of murder. Now, it's not in dispute that Joji may have committed a criminal offence. Indeed, it's not in dispute that he may be guilty of murder, in that if you are encouraging the person who is holding the knife, or that you are inciting the person holding the knife, then you may be guilty of murder. But what was objectionable to the law was the assumption that if you are with someone and they stick a knife in someone, you are guilty of murder. And therefore, the Supreme Court decided to overrule the earlier principle. It says that the Supreme Court says, we do not consider that the Chang Wing Su principle can be supported. The introduction of the principle was based on incomplete and erroneous reading of the previous case law, coupled with generalised and questionable policy arguments. We recognise the significance of reversing a statement of principle. We believe that it is right to do so. The third example is the case of Crown against R. The judgment in that case, I think, speaks for itself as to the aspect of the law that was objectionable. And the Lord Chief Justice in that case said, the idea that a woman consents in advance to sexual intercourse with her husband, whatever her state of health, and however proper her objections, is no longer acceptable. The time has now arrived for the law to declare that a rapist remains a rapist, subject to the criminal law, whatever his relationship with his victim. And so those three examples are examples of what law can teach us about artificial intelligence. The idea that I would like to share is that Alan Turing's question, can machines think, should only be answered in the affirmative if the machine can think clearly enough to be able to realise that the programme that governs it is wrong, and to correct that programme, and to state, as Gordon Brown stated in his apology to Alan Turing, we're sorry, you deserved so much better. Thank you.